Your last strategy offsite cost you 2 days, a facilitator, and a conference room full of tired executives, and you walked out with 3 options, maybe 4. Here's the uncomfortable question. Was that because only 3 good strategies existed, or because that's all your team had the brain power and hours to come up with? If it's the second one, and for almost every company it is, then AI isn't just changing how you plan. It's exposing that most strategic planning has been operating with one hand tied behind its back the whole time. Welcome back to the Manager Lab. Today we're digging into a piece from the September-October issue of Harvard Business Review 2026 called AI is Revolutionizing Strategic Decision Making, written by Felipe Cesar, who chairs the strategy area at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. This isn't another AI is coming for your job episode. It's about something more specific and frankly more useful. The actual bottleneck and how companies make big decisions, and why that bottleneck was never really about ideas, it was about human bandwidth. By the end of this episode, you'll have 3 things you can put into practice this quarter. Now let's get into it. Here's the core insight, and it reframes everything else. Strategy tools like SWOT analyses and portfolio matrices weren't simple because simple was better. They were simple because that's what a room full of tired humans working against a clock could actually handle in a planning cycle. Think about it practically. A team can hold maybe a handful of options in its collective head at once. Fatigue sets in, politics creep into the room. Eventually, the calendar forces a decision, whether or not the best option is actually surfaced yet. That's not a flaw in your team. That's just what human cognitive bandwidth looks like at scale. AI changes the math. It can generate and evaluate thousands of strategic options instead of 3 or 4. It can build a live, continuously updated picture of your markets and competitors instead of a slide deck that's stale the week after the offsite. And it can stress test a plan through structured debate, arguing the case for and against a strategy without internal politics deciding which idea, quote, wins in the room. For a manager, the practical takeaway here isn't buy an AI tool. It's this. The number of options your team considered last time was never the ceiling of what was possible. It was the ceiling of what your process allowed. And that's what we're sitting with before your next planning cycle. Okay, so why the tool isn't the advantage? Here's where it gets genuinely important for managers, and it's the part that's really easy to miss. The article is clear that since the same AI tools are available to every company in your industry, the tool itself stops being a competitive advantage almost immediately. Everyone has access to the thousands of options generator. So where does the edge actually come from? Well, 3 places. First, there's your proprietary data. The AI is only as sharp as what it's fed. Your internal sales data, your customer service transcripts, your operational metrics. That's the layer competitors can't replicate. Generic market data plus AI gets you generic strategy. Second, integrated workflows. A tool that spits out thousands of options is useless if those options die in a slide deck nobody revisits until the next year's offsite. The advantage goes to teams who wire the AI's output directly into how decisions actually get approved, budgeted, and executed. And then third, speed of execution. If AI compresses the time it takes to generate and stress test options from weeks down to days, but your approval process still takes 6 months, you haven't gained anything. The bottleneck just moved downstream. For a manager, that means the real project isn't adopt AI, it's audit whether your data, your workflows, and your execution speed can actually take advantage of AI once you have it. Most companies aren't there yet, and that gap is exactly where the competitive separation is going to happen over the next few years. So let's make this concrete. 3 practical moves straight from the spirit of the article. Number 1, cast a wider net before you narrow. In your next strategy discussion, resist the urge to jump straight to the short list. Use AI to generate a genuinely broad set of options first, more than feels comfortable. before your team applies judgment to narrow them down. The narrowing is still a human job. The generating doesn't have to be. 2, retire the static model. If your competitive analysis, market map, or SWOT gets updated once a quarter or once a year, treat that as a warning sign, not a norm. The article's point about continually updated views of markets and competitors is a direct challenge to the annual, quote, refresh habit most planning cycles still run on. And 3, build in structured AI-assisted challenge as a routine step. Before a major decision gets signed off, have the AI argue the strongest case against the plan you're about to approve, not as a gimmick, but as standard practice, the same way you would expect a devil's advocate in the room. Because it isn't influenced by internal politics or emotions or who's in the meeting, it can surface objections that your team might quietly avoid raising. None of these require a big platform rollout. They require a change in how your planning meetings are structured, starting with the next one on your calendar. Okay, here's the honest summary. AI isn't replacing strategic judgment. It's removing the excuse that limited time and mental bandwidth forced your team into a narrow set of options. The companies that win from here aren't the ones with access to the best AI model, because everyone has the same ones. They're the ones who pair it with data no one else has, workflows that actually use what it produces, and the speed to act on it before the window closes. So here's the question to sit with before your next strategy meeting. Are you still planning like options are scarce, or are you planning like they're not? Well, that's this episode of the Manager Lab. I hope it was useful. And until next time we meet here in the Manager Lab, do good work.